For me, I can have the holiday vibe anytime. For real, like anytime. I don't postpone enjoyment when I can. Sometimes we miss enjoying things that we have because you don't know the sacrifice that goes into you getting that. Sometimes you cannot be happy with what you have, not because it's not enough, but because you're comparing it to something else.
Yeah.
It's very easy to spend money that you don't have. It's very easy to think I can get out of this situation by postponing. And eventually it catches up with you. Just because you hear that people are making money, you go in, get the math right. Because the reality of the money-making situation in this country is very grim. Very few people are making money straight.
Yes.
The thing that, for me, has eaten most of my money is cars, right? I had a Mazda CX-7. I got it for a good deal, but I sold this car for $500,000.
You sold the car for $500,000.
Yes.
500,000 shillings.
Yes. In 11 months, I lost 1.5 million on one vehicle. Direct.
Hey guys, welcome to Financially Incorrect. I am your host, Barack, and we have another episode for you guys. I have an interesting money story I'm hoping to bring to you guys. My guest is laughing. I think he's used to seeing me in a different setting. I think maybe that's what's making it amusing for him. But welcome to Financially Incorrect, Dr. Kingori.
Thank you, Barack.
Uko salama?
Kabisa. Yeah.
Your show has been doing very well.
Thank you.
Recently, I've been seeing, I've checked out a couple of episodes. In fact, one of FX Pesa's Rufas was on your show not too long ago.
We have a pending argument with Rufas, actually. We went back and forth in a concept that it's actually time that separated us. Like
what was
waiting for him. I'm of the opinion that day traders have a time limit on them. Like it's more like gambling. You can't be successful. You will eventually blow up.
Okay.
And I think it's an idea borrowed from Nassim Taleb. And he believes he's a number one Bitcoin advocate. Actually, I know he's made several converts from that episode, including myself, though I have a few questions. But we are setting up another conversation with him.
Okay.
We should actually soon.
And what is Rufas's position?
Rufas can defend his point.
Because he's a trader.
He believes he can be. He believes you can be successful. But I am of the opinion that I buy the idea. I subscribe to the idea that it's no one in this world has the capacity to predict markets.
Okay.
Yes.
But you can have a set of tools that will allow you to be able to maneuver something. I mean, you can't predict anything to certainty, of course, but you can be able to read certain trends and understand certain trends and be able to. I mean, if I'd put it like this: it's like what's the explanation I want to give? But essentially, what I'm agreeing with you on is that yes, you cannot predict things to absolute certainty, but I think you can have empirical knowledge and understanding to a certain degree that puts you in a better position than if you're trading from a place of ignorance.
But limited. In this sense, there's a level of money you can play safely, but beyond a certain amount of money, depending on the kind of risks you take, there's a high likelihood, almost with near 100% certainty, that you will be wiped out. 100%.
I don't know about that, but what I will tell you to do is take one of the classes. Take one of the FX Pesa classes. We don't do them physically here anymore, but if you check out all the links in the description box, you should be able to access all the online classes. You can be able to demo trade as well, so that you I guess hopefully mitigate the risk of being wiped out clean and know actually how to go about it. And of course, right now FX Pesa have the Equity Trader app, which can be downloaded in iOS and Play Store. So my recommendation my recommendation is take the classes and then we can have that discussion from there, from an informed point of view. There's also someone else coming in. I don't know if he'll come to Nairobi. His name is Bern. He's the top prop trader in the world. He's coming to Dar because FX Space is opening up in Dar. But he may be someone who might be worth talking to as well, just to get his point of view.
I'd be interested in that conversation.
Yeah, we can see how to set it up.
The analogy that actually made me buy into this concept was most people benefit from randomness. Randomness in this sense, like Russian roulette. And Nassim Taleb gives a very good example. Yeah, if you are offered $10 million by a wealthy businessman to play Russian roulette, there is a 1 in 5 chance that you will die on the first.
Is it 1 in 5 or 1 in 6? Yes,
1 in 6.
Yeah.
Yes,
whatever it is,
whatever it is, yes.
Yeah.
So the game of life, he says, is if you have someone who takes the first shot, alafu they survive, they have $10 million, right? Second shot, $20 million. But you could be dead in the first shot. So he explains that in the game of life, there are people who play like the game of Russian roulette, but the bullet chambers are more. So you benefit 1, 2, and you feel like you're invincible. And
or up until at some point you will get shot.
Utaumwa in the process.
But I mean, I think that's just life in general. I mean, life is not linear. It's not a straight line. It's not up. It's not down. So at some point, something will happen. And I think that's where for me, I'm advocating for the education, because understanding how to mitigate certain risks is where it becomes important, so that you're not hedging or taking risks which you cannot cover. And
the education is for you to process the suffering of loss better, to manage loss. Because if you lose with awareness, the pain is different.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. I think it's more, I agree with you on that point. I think it's more around that. I think that's just, even stepping away strictly from the trading space, so to speak, in life. I mean, when you lose a job or you lose whatever, I mean, if you're financially sound and you have an emergency fund or whatever the case is, the loss is a bit easier to bear than if you gambled everything on and you literally have nothing left. Right?
Someone taught me something at Nation. I'm afraid I don't think he likes publicity. He was my unlikely money teacher. I've never mentioned him. He taught me something along those lines. We were discussing, and I get to meet him in a very interesting space. It's someone about the idea of job loss and how people react to that.
Yeah.
And he gives me a very good example. Like most people just wing it. Okay. Like the money's coming in, uko sawa and stuff. Then he gives me an example of if you save kidogo kidogo from, it looks like an ordinary conversation until I interact with the practicality of it. He gives me an example of save kidogo kidogo, and then when the shock comes, you'll be ready.
Yeah.
At that time, I process it as a conversation, like normal. Then I go to Shags. My mom tells me, like, hey, they've not seen water for like 3 days. Okay, they've not seen water like 3 days. And I asked, why don't you report? He says, like, there's a guy who we've picked the water from, like we've tapped the water from to come to a place. The original guy who installed water in the village, they are waiting for him to notice that the water is
no
gone.
water.
You know why? Because he has storage. So when the water comes, it takes a lot of time for him to notice that the water is gone because he has storage. So the guy, my unlikely money teacher, tells me that that's what most people miss. Like when the water is coming in, you assume that the water will keep coming in. Then when rationing comes, you get a shock. You don't have water. But if you have the storage, you may never even notice when water dries up. And I was like, wow. We talk, and I think that was the revolution I get in terms of saving and preparing for
unfortunate eventualities. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
What are your plans this coming December? Because this episode is going to go out, I think, towards the end of November, getting into December. So what are you looking at right now, planning for December?
I think I plan my time as celebrating every moment as is. I don't think I set aside December because, people are celebrating in December.
Right.
December is the holiday vibe. Or me, I can have the holiday vibe anytime. For real, like anytime.
Yeah.
I don't set a clock. I'll enjoy. I don't postpone enjoyment when I can.
I mean, I get that, but I feel like in December there's like an atmosphere, because everybody, because even when you take leave or you take a holiday before December, other people are still working. There's still a lot of traffic. People are still going to work, but then there's that 2 week period, 2.5 week period between, I'd say, like 15th December to about 5th of January, where a good majority of the people
Yeah.
are on break, and the atmosphere even feels different. There's less traffic. You don't feel like I'm sitting here relaxing, but then other people are moving forward, and I feel like that contributes to a better, I don't know,
That's if.
holiday.
That is if
Yeah.
the perception of a holiday is general, like general perception of a holiday, right?
Yeah.
When you say like taking a break, this means like going to Diani. No, in fact, my enjoyment doesn't come like that.
Yeah.
One of the most fun things I do is I call them therapy drive. I go for a drive, Bali Kidogo, with my playlist. I watch a movie. So I could give myself a task. Like let's say this week with my boy Bishop, and I think this is a new formula. Like if we do this, if we achieve this, sometimes it's unspoken. If we achieve this, I'm going to do this for myself. Like, I'll go for a therapy drive. I'll watch a movie. I'll read a book. I'll do this and that. So you find that in a week, I can go to a holiday like 3 times. So I don't think it's very hard for me to conform to. You've gone for a holiday in fact, most of the times I've found myself in a holiday destination is when I'm working, but in my own mindset, when I'm in the setup that I'm supposed to be working, I can squeeze in holidays. Huko katikati.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. What would you say about, or what do you think all the experiences you've been through, from the childhood to school, to where you are at now? What do you think the different experiences you've had have taught you about money?
Well, I have several, Bano. I have several instances that are linked, things I see in my adulthood that links directly to my childhood. For example, I come from what they call so-called humble background. And by humble, I mean, that's a polite name for poverty, but I mean like humble legit, okay? One of the stories that stick from my head was our relationship with money is a construct that is very complicated to understand. Kama, I remember when growing up, before growing up, recently I interact with a text on a study that was done about what children want. Okay? Like when someone wants a certain shoe, mostly they don't want it for them. Okay? Then I go back to my childhood, a very specific interaction with my dad. There was a time, in our time in school, there was a shoe called Butter Prefect. Toffees were not discovered yet. They were not out in the market yet. So I really wanted Butter Prefect. I wanted Butter Prefect so bad. And I wanted Butter Prefect because everybody had it, almost everybody had it. And then there was a buckle that it had about the side. Nilikuwa naona hiyo buckle najiambia, this is something. So now, my family had an unspoken agreement that when you get a shoe, you have to wear it out. Like
Until iishe.
Mpaka kidole yako itoke. Sio kutoka tu, lazima itoke yote. Ile you really need help.
Yeah.
So now, it happens that I gave constant reminders to my dad that hii kiatu yangu ikiisha, right? When this shoe wears out,
Butter Prefect.
Butter Prefect. And he agreed. So now, one time, after the shoe has been worn out completely, my dad promises in the morning that he'll buy me a shoe. Nikamkumbusha. And I was very clear. Make sure it's a Butter Prefect. So that day, as I was playing, my friends tell me that, hey, your dad has come through and it's like he's bought you shoes. I ran to the house directly. And I ran straight, as in it was a single room, so you can see. So I went to where he puts things when you need, and I see a shoe. And it was wrapped in a newspaper. I was like, this is not Butter Prefect. Like, I don't know where I got the knowledge from, but I was like, butter cannot wrap shoes in.
And he's
but then in the hope, yes, I opened the shoe, and it was not butter prefect. But in hindsight, it was the closest thing he could get to butter prefect, right? It was similar design and everything. It was a mtumba shoe, but it had laces. I wanted the buckle banner. I didn't even. I think. I don't think there's a time in my life I've been more ungrateful, because instead of ata thank you ile kidogo, I cried.
That it was not butter prefect.
It was not butter prefect. So now, at that time, I find out that my dad bought that shoe for 300 bob. I think, yeah, he bought it for 300 bob, if I'm not wrong. And growing up is when I understand the sacrifice that he made, because our rent was 350, 350 bob. So he, as in the price he paid for a shoe was almost equal to 1 month rent for us.
Yeah.
Then I get my kids. I'm like, I'm grateful now as an adult for the opportunities my parents offered. They did their best. So now I want to shock my kids. Kaingia na wao bata. Sema kila mtu achukue tafis and anything else like. And as I buy them, I'm like, why are you guys not shocked? Like, guys don't know these are tafis. They don't care. They don't care. And I think at this moment, I get to the realization of sometimes we miss enjoying things that we have because you don't know what goes into the sacrifice that goes into you getting that. Okay? So that's one thing I pick from my childhood connected to, you understand?
Yeah.
So, and I don't know whether kids need to know, I don't know whether kids need to know what goes into life, right? Ama we are into the capitalistic system so much that it affects everybody, right? There are people who you can get satisfaction minus exposure to outside things. But sometimes you cannot be happy with what you have, not because it's not enough or not because it's not good enough, but because you are comparing it to something else.
Yeah.
Then I interact with the debt in the same primary school, differently. So in class, I think I was in class 4 or 5, I make a bet with someone. The bet was very simple. He came up with a trick. If you can roll your hand mbele hivi and
This is the one for the opposite side.
Yes. So he says that it's practically impossible, that no one can do it. And so I pick it as a rumor. So I imagine it's not possible. So I go try it on class 6 guys. Is it class 6? The guys who are
ahead of you, yeah.
Yes. And the guy does something close to that. And I have to agree that, yes, he has done it. So the bet was 5 shillings. 5 shillings was a fortune then. Okay? So I don't have the 5 shillings.
And
so
you have lost the 5 shillings.
I don't have it.
No, I mean, you've bet for 5 shillings.
I bet for 5 shillings.
And the guy does
which
it.
I don't have.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, and he does it. So I have to pay the 5 shillings.
Yes.
So I find my way out of this. We agree that, okay, now I don't have the 5 shillings. But every day that I don't have the 5 shillings, we'll add 1 shilling on top. So tomorrow, it was very easy to solve conflict that way. Like we meet, his name was Steve. Nini yangu, and he was a very patient man. Like 6 bob. So we got to a place where to meet, we weren't even greeting each other. 15 bob, like an unwritten contract. It gets to 30 bob, 30 shillings.
And what are you doing during this period? Are you not looking for the money?
So where am I getting the money?
When you were making the deal, where did you think you'd get the money from?
I was investing in the impossibility of that thing. I invested in the impossibility.
Okay.
I guess I didn't believe in miracles then, as in that much. So it gets to 30 shillings, and he decides now it has to stop here. Okay? Like it's 30 bob and it's
because that means that's 25 days now. It's actually a month. Yeah.
And now we are closing, so he wants his money. And now he offers me a deal. Because I can't afford it. anipige tumalizane. Like, like, what the hell? As in, what kind of arrangement? As in, how is a physical assault worth 30 bob as in compensation? And I think he eventually forgave me. But growing up, I learned the hard way because I've paid a lot of school fees. For us to do conversations on money, like I've paid a lot of school fees. Because he forgives me. But then later in life, I find that it's very easy to spend money that you don't have. It's very easy to think I can get out of this situation by postponing the payment of what's the hassle of getting 6 bob? I know I can't ask my mom for money, right? And then we postpone. Eventually, it catches up with you. I didn't learn in primary school. In high school, I make 2 serious money mistakes. 2 serious money mistakes. Number 1, I invest in rumors again.
in impossibility again.
And this actually teaches me very deep lessons. So I was addicted to phones. In our era, and your phones have started coming out in terms of we have the flap phone, we have the slide phone. I think this before the Chinese phones hit the market, the Motorola V3, the Samsung E250. I had those Nokia N series. I had them, as in I could just binge on magazines, like looking at phone features, and that was my dream. I think if kama I had knowledge of YouTube then as a phone review, I think that would have made a legit career for me. So I had friends talking, yeah, these phones, they are selling for 60,000. You can get them at the black market for 5K. And I believed it. So I always knew that when people get sent home for school fees, I was among the first. So, and there's a place in Embu. I grew up in Embu where they used to let me say, people assume they smoke weed, like it was a base, like people idle. So in my head, I assumed this is the black market people are talking about. This is the black market where you get a 60K phone for 5,000. Okay, so I promised my friends that I can get them, the phones. I have no idea. I just heard people talking about black market. So I promised my friends that I can get you a black market phone. Kwanza I remember specifically, Nokia 6300. I think it was 6K. So now my friends give me 6K, and I know I'm going to get the phone for 4K. Because I hear, like, how much does... And I think we are investing purely on rumors. Like, we are going through a magazine with my friend, like, unaona kama inaweza toka how much on the black market? Sema 4K. Or like, okay, sawa. And then I made a commitment. So now my friend, I think one friend, I get one investor who trusts me with 6K. So I get sent home for school fees. And the first thing I do, one of my dreams, in Embu stage, there's a place where they sell samosas and sausages. And my dream, even going to the market with my mom, was one day, I'll eat a sausage from this place. So I have 6K from my friend, and I know I'll get a phone for 4K, black market. 4,000. I first stop at the sausage place to eat the profit.
The 2K.
No, I
perceived
1,500. I think 1,500. Was it sausages and samosas? As in, this was a stash enough to take me through the weekend before I get to school. Yes. That was the idea. And I don't think I even ate 10 sausages before I felt like throwing the rest away. Because there's also one problem. I couldn't go home with these things. I'll have to explain to my mom. But then I don't remember what I did with the 500, but I made sure that I ate the profit first, and then I was left with
enough to
buy the phone in the black market.
Yeah.
Reality check hits me on Monday when I'm supposed to go back to school. When someone tells me, black market, Buddha, they will even steal the 4K that you have. Like a buenda show up with that money. So now I can't go to the black market with the 4K because I've already eaten the profit, so I have to look for a phone. It was a lie. I couldn't get a phone. Luckily, I had someone give me a phone that I could pay the rest later. I bought them a Motorola L3. There was a L3, L6. There was a Motorola L6. It was a very neatly designed phone by then standards. It was like the block version of the Motorola V3. So I buy that phone, but he's not satisfied, and remember, I'm in trouble. And my mom and my parents used to pay school fees in installments, so like bribing the teachers, but officially. Like they would get a receipt for the 2K
Yeah.
I was sent to school back to school with.
Yeah.
So now my love for phones links me up with a friend. He's in politics now, so I won't mention him. I don't know how this would affect him. So they were doing exams. They were a class ahead of me. So I have already fixed myself in a situation. I have fixed myself in a situation that I don't even know how to get out of, right? I owe someone some money from the top-up of the phone. The person I brought the phone for is not happy, but I told him these are the ones that zilikuwa kwa black market. I think Ngeta iko imeshika sana around that time. So now I go back to school. Then a friend of mine comes with an idea. I have not paid the 2K, school fees that I'm supposed to give
The
from
teacher.
my mom.
Yeah.
Yes. So now my friend Dicky comes. I have David's phone, the guy in a class ahead of me. It was some Nokia and he tells me that I know a guy. We had people who used to sneak out of school, alafu they come back with ngumus, like the donuts. And ngumu was 5 bob outside the gate. If you enter the gate TV, 20 bob. Like you could have, we had people who, yani zile takataka boys eat.
Yeah.
You could have, we used to go to church on Sunday. Someone can buy a ngumu just because of, people used to get, how much profit is that in percentage?
That's what?
Almost 75%.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because if from 5 to 20,
Yeah,
100% is
almost 400%, right?
Yeah.
Profit. So you go buy a ngumu, unabebea mtu hapa. Imagine, there isn't even a such, just for the confidence, someone earns 15 shillings. But there are people who are doing it on large scale.
Yeah.
And there are people who used to sneak out of school to go get it. Kingia kwa gate from 15, 20 shillings. No risk, no reward. I think that's the principle. So, so now, Dicky comes and tells me he knows someone who, if we just call them and give them the seed money of 1,500, they will bring us ngumus and we won't have to sneak and we'll sell them. And I was
But
like,
that would be how many? That's 1,500 divided by 5. That's like 300.
I wasn't even doing the math like that. My math was 1,500 ngumus. I'll multiply the money by 4. We make 6,000. And then
You get the 2,000 to pay.
So my friend agrees that he'll give me the 4,500. He'll take the 1,500 to continue investing. I started doing the mathematics with the end goal of 4,500. I'm like, I'm sorted. I could even do this twice and get my own phone, right? So I start thinking of the end away from the process.
Yeah.
So what's the plan? Let's call the guy. We get him the 1,500, okay? So he's supposed to bring the ngumus via the fence. And as the senior investor, I don't want to involve myself with the dirty work or the processes of the company. We know our target is ngumus should come at 5:30. At 5:30, at 5:30, as we target breakfast at 7, because we have everybody covered. We're actually taking orders, like Mali nakuja at 7. And then the guy who's supposed to bring ngumus somehow oversleeps. And I think that gives me the impression why bosses get mad when people get late for work. Because this guy oversleeps, and I think 7, he has not arrived. So we keep calling. So now, we have the option of dropping the gig because it's too dangerous. Okay? It's too dangerous. So we have the option of dropping the gig. Now, we probably consider the next day. But mimi nilikuwa najua by 8 a.m.
Nataka hiyo pesa.
Hiyo pesa iko. Like imeingia, it's like a sure bet, okay? Then, it happens that I insisted. Let him just bring it. Then Dicky says, so let's go. The guy comes and throws the ngumus over the fence, sidio. And he goes, and I don't know where the teacher on duty pops out.
Yeah.
So Dicky, in his wisdom, throws the ngumus na hiyo gunia inside the nearest classroom. I remember it was Form 1 East.
They came
I
in
was
a
in
gunia.
Form 2 then. Yes, they came in a gunia.
There were that many.
Yeah, they came in a kagunia. So now, this as a Form 2, I assume, and I think Dicky in his wisdom thought the Form 1s will be scared. They won't touch that. But njaa ni mbaya. Njaa ni mbaya. Like hunger is bad. Even in the Gen Z movement, you see what hunger is making, the things hunger is making people do. So they scramble for the ngumus, and then now the teacher comes. They couldn't eat all of it. Ngumu is there. Now, I'm dealing with a different level of problem now. I'm in trouble over the phone, right? I've invested part of the school fees, right? Right? I've invested part of the school fees, okay? And now I'm like, so this is a new layer of trouble on top of the trouble I was already in, right? So people get back from the assembly. There's a commotion kidogo. The principal gets called. But then now I put my investment in hope. I hope that Dicky will not snitch. And I'm pegging all my hope because in Govio Boys High School, we had two categories of people. People who had grown up in Nairobi and other urban areas, and people who had grown up in Shags. We had the assumption that these people are dry. These people have a thick skin. These people are immune to beatings. I thought wrong. Because I think a few slaps had Dicky mentioning my name. And I think at this time, I remember that moment. I was seated, where I was seated in our class, I actually shifted so that I can see what's happening. That class is there, our class is here. So now, in fact, it's an L. Our class is here, I can see that class. I could see my name coming in from every classroom before it gets to me. And then the principal comes for me and asks, what's up? What's your involvement in this? And when I get there, I deny, first option, deny. Dicky changes the story. He's like, no, teacher, he's the guy with the phone. He's the one who called. Now the case changes from donuts to where is the phone. So now I'm in another layer of trouble. This phone is not mine. So the owner of the phone gave me the phone in trust, so I'll have to pay for the phone, right? So I'm in trouble for the phone, trouble for school fees, trouble for another phone that I had. And all this was simply because I invested in rumors. Somehow, the case was very simple. Like, hey, tell us who brought the ngumus. I go back home. I was never even suspended. So after the back and forths for like 2 terms, eventually they were like, you can go back to class. Stop punishing your parent. And my parents were very committed to make sure that I was in that school. But that lesson comes later, tied to my life. In 2019, someone gives me advice like, hey, and I didn't realize it then. Someone gives me advice like, hey, if you invest in transport, like buy this kind of car, you'll make money. Like, hey, sure bet this X amount of money. I don't forget, I've learned this lesson before. Like, I'm prepared for this. Verify. Like, go through, like, what are the numbers? Do people make this money? How do they make that? Like,
was this in the matatu business, or was this a taxi, a Uber?
A taxi, yes. Like, invest in this. We actually pay, in fact, we pay X amount of money for these vehicles. I was like, really? So I can actually be the supplier for your space? It was in the hotel transfers. Like, hey, really? Can I give you 5 cars? Yes. So I decided to start with 2. Start with 2. And
what were the investment terms in terms of what would it cost you to buy the cars? What were they paying you back? What was the return looking like?
The car was going for, I think at that time, I bought one for 3.1, another one for 3 million. Okay? And it was 300K sure bet
a
for
month.
Each. Yes. And I think my liabilities through financing were 77,000 for one, I think 78,000 for another, and I think some few coins hapa za differences hapa na pale. So I was sure
You're going to make your money
300K. In fact, I was going, unapata tuseme mpaka unafanya hesabu. I forget I've seen this somewhere. Unajiambia unafanya hesabu na net like hapa ni 150k on each car, one services the other, 300k. I bought those cars on a Friday. And I was very excited to call the guy. If he watches this, he knows. Nito Raphael. He has never picked my call to date. And I'm talking about August 2019. He's never picked my call to date. And now I have to figure it out.
So you so you get financing to buy the cars. You buy the cars. Then you call the guy for the investment.
Yes.
And he doesn't pick up.
I bought two.
Yeah, you bought two
A friend
cars.
of mine was to buy two. He was like, if this... That friend played safe. It was to buy two. But he waited for me to buy first and get the contract. Right? Mimi, because I believed in the idea so much, I went all in. Understand? And another friend of mine was to buy one. So, but I would... Nini start a company.
Manage
and
the
then
five, yeah.
Where? Learned the hard way. So and then COVID comes, and it's a season where you have a commitment of karibu 6 million bob. Now you have to deal with that. You understand? So if I had gone back to, I have very painful lessons from high school that don't just because you hear that people are making money, you go in, get the math right. Because having spoken to people who are in business, having spoken to people who are making money, the reality of the money-making situation in this country is very grim. Very few people are making money straight.
Yes.
Like, these are my margins. Kwanza, the concept of borrowing, I'm struggling to find someone who will convince me that you can borrow and make money. Because banks are lending at 22%. The average return, annual return of investment plays between 8 and 12%. Where are you getting the extra? To pay yourself and pay the interest of the people who giving you money is their investment.
Yeah.
You understand? I'm struggling to find someone who has done that. And also, almost everything I go through now, sort of I've been prepared. Nowadays, I've raised my awareness. Most of the things I deal with in terms of money situations, I have an example from growing up that teaches me that, hey, Niaje, by the way, if you open your eyes, somewhere in your life lies something that you can make reference to.
Before we continue, guys, on to our money conversation, please allow me to talk to you about one of our sponsors for today's episode, and that is Loop. They are here to make your adulting life so much easier. Paying bills, it can be tiring, it can feel like an extreme chore and an extreme sport, but they're here to make it easier. You can pay your KPLC bill, you can pay JTL Fiber, you can pay DSTV, you can pay Nairobi Water, you name it. You can do your SACCO deposits, all through one app via simple transactions, and keep track of that money as well. So adulting doesn't have to be so hard. Loop is here to make it easy for you. Please click the link in the description box to download Loop now. Whether you're an iPhone user, whether you're Android, you can download the app and be able to simplify and allow for Loop to make your life so much easier. I am using Loop myself and I am benefiting right now, I can assure you. So why wait? Just Loop it.
I used to play with my cousin, a lady. Let me call her Lena, actually. So we play with her every day. So we are inseparable. Spend most of our time together. If he does something, if you ask, as in, she was my witness, I was her witness. So one day, I remember on Saturdays, the first stop was at our place, or the first stop for me was at her place to pick her up, we go play. Then she comes up with a game that she has discovered. We have a tree, embu. There's a lot of that. A tree where ukigonga na mawe, when you hit it with a stone, whitish glue comes. We used to use that to make kites, but it's a whitish sticky substance. In embu inaitwa kariaria. So you throw a stone, you hit it, inatoa. So my cousin comes for me in the morning, and he throws a stone, hits the kariaria, and turns down, collects 10 shillings. She takes a stone, hits the kariaria again. When she hits, and she was very clever. When she misses, she doesn't collect money. But when she hits,
She collects.
she turns 5 bob. She turns.
And where's the
20
5 bob coming from?
From the ground. So now, I hit the kariaria the whole day.
Yeah.
I didn't collect anything. Not a single coin. Right? Then, later, ndio na realize that my cousin had finessed her mom some money. Right? Like, I think, was it coins, like 60 bob, right? So she punished me the whole day, competing with a game I cannot win. So this was, I say this was my first interaction with money laundering, because she needed a witness.
Oh, to say that
Because
you have.
yes, if I saw her with money, I can defend magic.
Yes.
You understand? I saw it happening. I saw the miracle. You understand?
Yeah.
And I think that in retrospect, when I look at that, I'm like, in this life, you see business. This thing people call wash. Most businesses, you can't compete with. And you can't compare yourself with other people because you think they're making money. So you also start the same business hoping you'll make money. That for me, when I opened my eyes to start looking at life based on the experiences I'm learning over time.
Yeah. It's a different perspective.
100%.
I have a question for you. What did you do? How did you get through that hole for the 2 cars? How did you end up paying them back, or did you end up paying them back? Did the bank repossess them? What ended up happening?
I sold one. I sold one after 11 months. I sold one after 11 months. I kept one. But I carry a very deep lesson from that because I got a very good deal on that vehicle. I bought it for 3.1. It was going for 3.1. I put down 10%, 310. Okay, I paid the installments till July when I sold the car, right? So the money I paid was 310, right, as a deposit. So the bank finances me 2.9 something, okay? And then I pay the installments. The best offer I get on this car in July is 2.5. And the person helping me sell the car, Martha, call her Martha, God bless her. She was at Urban Drive. I've bought a few cars with Urban Drive. She tells me that if you have a cash offer, take it. And I do the mathematics. I'm like, if I don't take this offer now, yes, it's 2.5. The next installment is 77, whatever, and another investment. So if I don't take the car, hoping that I can get something close to 3.1, if I keep this car for 4 months, I'm losing. So I decide to sell it. Sell it for 2.5. I have to bridge the gap. Guess how much I paid the bank? 2.9.
So you added.
So remember, there's installments I've paid.
Yes.
I got into the trap, talk to the bank, they give you 3 months for nini. I think makosa inafanyikianga hapo in terms of interest. I've not done the mathematics properly, but cumulatively on that car loan, that one, in 11 months, was it 11 months? Yes, 11 months, because I bought it in the August the previous year, sold it in July. I lost cumulatively 1.5 million. Yes, straight up.
Okay. I have a question, because you talked about coming from humble beginnings, right?
Yes.
And now you're talking about buying, multiple cars, right, and key cars. I mean, what are, I would say, key things that happened in your life financially that moved you from this spot of humble beginnings to where you are, and you're buying cars? If you were to give us like 3 key, turning points or tipping points, so to speak, that happened in your life financially that allowed you to get to that point, what would they be?
Number one, part of my buying cars, before I respond to that, part of my buying cars, it's a very shameful thing, especially. It's not something to be proud of. I come from a place where buying a car was sort of like a measure of success, right? And I went overboard. And I think I always confess to my friends that if my nini, what do we call it? The thing that for me has eaten most of my money is cars, right? So it's not something to be proud of. It's not something to show off at. Hey, man,
How much money do you reckon you've spent on cars in your lifetime?
Way. I don't even want to mention because it's painful. I once bought a car. I once sold a car. Let me just give you perspective. I had a Mazda CX-7. It's bigger than a CX-5. I got it for a good deal, but I think it's shameful to admit that I sold it. I've lost money on cars different ways. One is I sold this car for $500,000.
you sold the car for 500,000,
Yes.
500,000 shillings.
Yes, because, and I'm sure you'll not get that car for less than 1.2 million now anywhere. The same car, right? And I sold that car on a whim. Someone told me it had like a key card, the keyless nini key card. Someone tells me that at Easy Gary, these cars have a problem. Like one day you just wake up and it wouldn't just start, and itakuwa mkebe hivyo tu. So now that I know I'm gonna buy a different car, better brand nini, I'm like, do I even need this car? I sell it. And then I come to learn later. The reason why my buying of cars is very shameful. I later come to learn. In fact, in one of our conversations coming up, one of our guests has had a car for, I think, he has built a car for 27 years. And he makes a very good case here, how cars, he gives a very good example of how cars keep people poor, because we own cars for perception. Ideally, cars are supposed to be a means of transport. When you look at countries where we import from, kama Japan, sana, these are people who are okay with dealing at an Alto. You understand? I once bought a backup car, like a small Mazda Verisa, like for my errands, and I pull up into a petrol station, and the attendant was like, "Hi, gari kukai, why are you driving this?" And it hits me that he probably does not have a car, but he expects me to drive a certain car based on perception, right? And the idea that we own cars to put up appearances got me to think about the cost of actually owning cars to put up appearances. Then reality check hits me in traffic one time. I'm driving a very big car that I think my fuel cost around that time, the Mazda CX-7, it's a Gazla. My fuel cost around that time, I think this is 2017, was around 30K a month on average on fuel. 30K, yes, I used to spend around 30K a month. And then in traffic, I see one of the leaders of one of the spaces people use for arts creatively, the person who says who has the final say on whether you'll have a show at a certain venue or not. The boss who everyone goes to was very comfortable in a very clean Toyota 100. And I'm like, this person has probably owned this car for 8 years. Like literally probably owned that car for 8 years. So the idea of not looking at a car for its utility value, looking at a car for the perception
value.
it creates. And it's not at your personal thing. You can decide. I interact with some things that started changing my money mindset and my relationship with cars. I think Morgan Housel writes about real wealth is in what you don't buy. And it's true. Like, I think I would like to be in a place where I can pass by Toyota Kenya and look at a V8 and certainly say that if I wanted right now, I could buy this car for cash and drive away with it. But I'll not make that decision. You understand? That's the true wealth. True wealth is not driving the V8 in under constrained circumstances. Because some things don't make sense. I think, is it Baraza who writes in The Nation? I think it's Baraza who had an article that if you earn 500,000 shillings in this country, you cannot afford to drive a V8. And it's true. By the way, it's true when you think about it in every possible way.
In your experience, have you lived that experience of being, I guess, earning 500,000 shillings and being unable to take care of a V8, so to speak?
No, I was able, but I could have done better if, let's say, instead of having two high-end vehicles and not knowing when to quit the business, right? I would have used that money for something else, right? Sometimes you find yourself using abilities the wrong way. Sijui kama you get what I mean. Like you have the ability I had the ability to, though under pressure kidogo, to pay for the vehicles, right? But in retrospect, if I had the knowledge I have now, I would have owned probably one, right? Not for perception, but for the feeling of how I feel when I drive it. I'm very careful not to do things because other people expect me to do, right? But I would have been able to do something else of more value. I'm telling you, I lost in 11 months, I lost 1.5 million on one vehicle, direct, like money you can count, okay? Like if I had done different mathematics, by the end of that 11 months, I would have had 1.5 million shillings in cash, right? There's so much you can do with 1.5 million in cash. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if we were to go to now the question I'd asked around I guess the three key things that you would say allowed you to move from, as you said, a space of humble beginnings to where you are now, talking about cars and purchasing all of those things and wealth. What would you say they'd be?
Number one, chance. Chance, and some people call it being in the right place at the right time. Some people call it luck, but I believe in God because I made one prayer since I was in Sunday school, and I've seen it manifest.
What was the prayer?
My prayer was our Sunday school teacher. It was Mrs. Motweri from a church. We started in Deliverance. Now it's Perazim Mission Center in Embu. She taught us that in everything you do, pray like David. Ask for God's favor, right? And then I find myself in situations, calculated every step I've made. I could easily have been anybody. I could easily have been an average person just hustling uko nje. But there are certain steps that happen in my life. Number one, coming to Nairobi, the first time I get a chance to do comedy, some people, my neighbors, my uncle, I used to live with my uncle, they're going for a comedy competition. And then he's like, you're funny. See, you can give us a few jokes. We're going to compete. If we win, we'll share something with you. And then we share a few jokes, some stories to Lukona Piga High School, and they're like, these good vibes. They go to rehearse at the social hall. It was around 10. Then they come back at 1. They're like, we are being told that the competition can accommodate up to 4 people. So we can tag you along. It's 2 to 4 people. So we tag you along. And I'm like, I don't even have fare. One of them offers. His name is Evans. He offers. He says, I'll pay for your transport. Then let's go. Then we go. We find that we need to change the script. We change the script on set. We perform. And then I become a highlight from that performance. Remember, I wasn't supposed to come. This is in June 2010. I wasn't supposed to come. And then I get the dose of, you can actually do this thing. I participate in the competition between June. I go out of a place to stay around June, around, I think, is it August, October? A friend of mine hooks me up with a cousin of theirs who lives between. I used to walk from, say, Kayole to Safari Park. Then the journey gets cut by half. A friend comes through and he's like, you don't have a place to, I had a place to stay, but I didn't have food to eat. He's like, no, you can't stay here. So let me go show you somewhere we can park. I thought we are going to his house, but when we get to Dandora, he too does not have a house. So he's housed by a cousin. So around this time, I participate in this competition, Tena Kidogo, and the day I give up, the day I'm like, okay, sawa basi, so I guess this is not working. And this is, in hindsight, I made a deal with my mom that if things don't work out in 2 years, I'm going back. This is just, I think, 6 months in. Things are not working out. Then on this particular day, that I am sure, like,
You're done.
I'm done. I didn't know where I'll sleep that day. Can't go back to my uncle's place. This place, as the vibe is also not giving. So I have to find a way to. So I decide, instead of just staying idle on that day, something inside just pushes me. Go watch this show. They are recording today. They are taping. So just go watch. And then something really pushes me. Go sit there and watch from the perspective of the people who've been sitting down watching you. And all this time, we've never won anything, actually. Just some incentives, kidogo. And then they got to a place where they said it's winner take all. So when I went there, the producer sees me. Her name was Esther on GBS TV. And she's like, your friend JB Masanduku is here. Why don't you team up and make something? Remember, I didn't plan for this. Okay? So why don't you just come together, create a skit, we'll put you in the lineup.
Right.
We go perform that day. I remember we met under the rain. Like, he had come for something else, and then, so you come team up together and do something. We team up that day, the two of us. JB leans over to me and says, I don't think we can win. Even if we win, they won't give it to us. The prize was 20K, right? And after the performance, I don't even remember I've ever processed a feeling of disbelief like I did when they said we had won. And we had to split the money between the two of us, right? I think I had taken a cup of porridge in the morning. I was very hungry, but I think the hunger disappeared. And when I look back to that day, that November in 2010, if I had not, I like hypothesis a lot. So if I had not decided to walk, right, to that place that day, chances are I would never have known the potential of what I can do, because it is from that winning that a lady called Fidelis calls me, because the stand-up scene in Nairobi is budding, and they have a show in Nairobi Cinema they have started. So she wants me to go perform there. I didn't even have a phone. I was a SIM card guy then. I don't know where I had taken my phone. I don't remember. But I had bought a phone with the winnings that we had at that time. And this was a few months after. She called me for the gig. I go for the stand-up, Nairobi Cinema. There comes a conflict. We used to do Fridays, right? The 300 bob they used to pay us was a fortune, right? It meant a lot.
It was 300 a day.
Hey, Mazi, that was good money. It was enough for transport 20 bob. We used to eat cow feet at
I've never eaten.
Then
Hoofs. Hoofs.
au ukisema hivyo inakaa vibaya bana. No, don't say hoofs. Ilikuwa mguu ya ng'ombe.
I've never eaten.
I think
And is it the soup or like the actual?
mine is not even cooking. They boil the hoofs. Okay, that's disrespectful. They boil the cow feet till the hair falls off. I don't know kama they scratch the hair. They boil so the brown the just it's eating as a formality. I don't even think it has any nutritional value. It's just eating for PR. Like it's pranking yourself that you've eaten something so that you can cross over the calendar to the next day. Right? So this gig at Nairobi Cinema, a very good team of Cavs, a guy called Cavs, and Busho, they had put together a show that if your jokes were not funny, they would actually, you pay taxes for not being funny. Like the pay was 500 bob, but you will get someone getting 200 bob because we joke haikuchekesha watu. Like it was that rough, but it was a good training process, right? So it slides into the club scene. So we start performing at Club Hearts. They later changed the name on Moi Avenue. So every week, it was every Wednesday. And it started slowly building momentum, and people used to fill up that club for comedy exclusively, right? Then rumor starts breaking. There is a show. So a lady called Zuleka calls me and insists that I have to go for the audition at Hilton. I was like, Hilton? This one Hilton? So I go for an audition. And for this audition, we're still doing the club shows. Everybody else have gotten their calls. Like, everybody knows they're performing. Like, oh, you've been selected to perform at the Kenya Corner open mic. And for the performance at the clubs, you used to make 500 bob, 500 shillings a night, right? So cumulatively, that's 2,000 bob a month. Okay. So Kenya Corner, for starters, open mic, they were giving you that. 2,000.
That's 2,000.
Bob. Yes, and it's a once a month show. If you're performing open mic, 3,000 bob. If you are a featuring artist, and I think it goes to 3,000 bob. that was good money, man. That was good money. So everybody has gotten a text, including how much you'll be paid. I did not get a text. Then eventually, I think towards the end of the week, I get a text like you've been selected to come perform at the open mic. So to come perform at the open mic, and we'll pay you 2,000. I'm like, sawa. Then they put up another audition. It is on this other audition that they upgrade me to a feature artist. Oh, so nimeongezwa mshahara hata kabla job,
3K.
like from 2K to 3K. Good vibes. So I go perform. February 6th. This carries a very interesting moment for me. Because backstage, that's my first time I faced fear. Right? I was backstage and I peeped and I saw the crowd seated. I wasn't used to that. And I remember something comes to me and is like, do you really have to do this? You do realize that you can go back home. I started getting ideas of other things I could do. You could actually go back now. And it was very serious that I could have left. Right? 6th February 2012, Kenya Corner. It was called Crazy Monday. At that time, it was a Crazy Monday. I think 6th February was a Monday before they changed. So I almost acted on that. I almost said, like, call the next guy, right? Then I go to perform. And I still have the emails, the feedback. They said, oh, your performance. So they called, your performance was laid back, kidogo, you need to work on your energy and stuff. So they said, for the second show, it was a monthly show. So for the second show, they were only going to work with select people who were on Churchill Show, Akina Chipukizi and stuff. They were very straight. Cedric Kuloba was the guy who put together the show. The hosts were Kazungu Matano, Captain Otoyo, and Jalas, right? So he says they will work with select people. Then something pushes me to go for the audition, even though they didn't call me. Okay, so I go, and they almost sent us away. Like, hey, situluambia msikuje. So before they send us away, Mshamba sees me. I was like, set yako ilikuwa poa, enda audition tena. So I get a chance to audition for an audition I wasn't called for. Then I pass, and then I was put in the lineup. And I think that's the second highlight that marks a change in my career, because from that moment, the feedback from the second show was like, Mazi, I think we've noticed this is your style. Like, this is how you talk. Like, hauna pressure, like, oh, the energy is not shouting, but you make sense. So keep at it. And by the end of Kenya Corner, by the time Kenya Corner winds up, I was the only comedian who did all the shows consecutively. And this is a person who could have quit on
because
chance,
of fear.
Because of fear, as in having faced the fear. And I think I tie that to my next gig. Because it is through understanding how I write that Kazungu Matano is scouting for script writers. And he's like, he called us for like 3 meetings on ideas on how to write a show. Then he settles on me and Desagu. He's a comedian.
Yes, I know Desagu.
Yeah, so he settles on me and Desagu, right? And he says he's calling us for a gig at Nation, a paid gig. I was like, oh, XYZ is going on a break. So they need like a filler show for just 3 months. And then they...
Before you get the Nation bit, how are you surviving during this period?
The club shows, like 500. Imagine it was enough to survive then.
Yeah. You're just...
on a cow feet diet, like hooves. On a hooves diet, you can do a week clean. Like, go to sour. On hooves, you're
fine. Okay, sour. So we get to the Nation.
That's weird. You should be on your feet. We're on cow's feet, man. For that period. So, and then... I think at some point I go back to Kayole and I did some, on top of doing the comedy shows, I did a lot of community outreach. Like, there is a group that we were part of, and I hope that culture never dies, but I feel it died. We had very progressive youth groups. From Embu, I was in a group called Embu Youth AIDS Advocates. I hate that ended. In Kayole, I was in a group called Yenke. Yenke, it's very popular. It was a church-based organization. And then I was still in another group one of the most progressive PR ones that I've been part of, called Angaza. So one of easy gigs is script writing. And I think before Angaza, someone calls me for a gig, easy scripting. I used to improvise comedy a lot. We used to go, like easy crowds, sijui kayole wapi. We used to do like freestyle. I think these are part of the times I've had interactions with freestyle comedy. Like wale wasi wa mtaa, people who I'm not, as in, you didn't even know how to start scripting for them. I used to do a lot of freestyle for that. And I think one of the best paying gig was a gig where I was a script writer. And they used to pay me 300 bob when I act, 300 bob for script writing. And I only later learned that I was doing all this, and then someone was signing as a director and script writer for 6,000 per day. Walai.
Yeah.
For 6K per day.
And this was within the youth groups, or this was?
Within the youth group. Someone comes up with a gig like, hey, we have a youth outreach project. Nini. They used to make 6K on my name. Alafu mimi nalipwa 300.
600 bob max.
600 bob max. I used to think it's a lot of money, but it was so painful. Like, imagine knowing, and this is funny, knowing that I was earning 600 bob was very good vibes. Until I learned that someone was signing 6K in my name. Man.
Okay. So that's essentially how you are surviving and making money to keep going. All right. So you get called with the Sagu to go for that's where we were, to go for the nation.
And by the way, I know most people don't believe in God nowadays. I don't know what the world has become, but I've had guardian angels in every step, 100%. And I think it's always very embarrassing. Like, if I start mentioning, because when I get to nation, it's here when you really learn that no man is an island. You can't, like, there are certain steps you can't make on your own. You cannot. Understand? Because I meet the captain, and he gives us a gig with the SAG. We write for them and Obina, right? We don't, and I think the first time Larry found us on his desk, because somehow we were placed on Larry's desk, right? He asked, who are these guys? I said my name. The Sagu says his name. What are you doing here? We are writing a new show called Offside. And then he turns to Effie. Effie is one of the best producers I've ever worked with. And says, what do these kids know about writing for TV? I think that statement sticks with me to date. He later came to be a friend and a number one supporter. But he was like, what do these kids know about writing for TV? And do you know, he was right. Because we learned on the job. And it was not... I think my first scripting teacher, like proper TV scripting, was the head of TV then, Shalin Samat. Like, it was baptism by fire. She was kind and also strict at the same time, right? So we go for 3 months, the gig works, they want to renew for... In fact, we logged in at Nation as strangers for 6 months. We used to go write our names, go in, 6 months.
And how much are you being paid at this time?
Nation. Funny enough, by the time I was going to Nation, I could go on stage for 5 minutes and make 45K, right? Once. At Nation, they give us an offer of 30K a month. That is 11 years ago. 30K a month, right? And I take this gig on Alafu. I later learned it's a Sunday to Sunday gig. That's the kind of dedication we had to give because we are learning on the job, right? So now they give us an offer of 30K first, and then we can negotiate. That was the beauty of it. Like every 3 months, and then they saw us. Kazungu Matano, Captain Noto is a super negotiator. Kwanza he enjoyed those short-term contracts. Juu anajua atachapa kazi, but he knows where he'll grab you, right? So he was an expert at that. So when we saw that, we're like, oh, wow. So this is how things work. So the first offer was 30K. And I find myself at crossroads because I'm like, do I really need to go hard, to go this hard for a whole month, yet I can work on my own terms, get on stage once and make that money, right? But then something happens. I go for an audition at Churchill Show just to flex my comedic skills for me. And then I do a show. I think I do 2 shows. And I get in trouble at work because I missed a recording for the show, Offside. Then Shalin Samat gives me an option. Do you want to do those things you're doing, or you want to focus on what you're doing? Then I called myself for a meeting, quick meeting. I was like, Churchill does his show outside and brings it to Nation. I'm at Nation. So I can work here, get to know the system. And if I'm to pitch a show, I can pitch a show from inside, right? So we do offside, and then they cancel it in 2015. When I'm just getting set for life. Like, they cancel it a month after I've bought my first car. Like, and it comes when I say I have guardian angels in every step. Something happens while writing for Offside. I don't have a comedy outlet. I just write the jokes. They do the jokes. Then an idea comes. It's like a news presentation show. Why don't we come up with a character for a reporter? Then I start writing for a clip. At Nation, it's funny that we had people who didn't even, they used to come, say hi to Effie, say hi to Nani, say hi to Larry and the people at the desk, and they will literally skip us. Understand? And now, one time it happens. This happens. We were used to it. Then one day we are seated at the desk. Then I hear the boss is calling. I'm like, does he even know my name? Apparently, we did a clip on the show that went viral. And they wanted, it was it was a press conference, these athletics people, I think the chairman of the Athletics Kenya, and they had a clip of something we had done on the show that they couldn't stop. Like, it kept playing, so he was struggling to, and it was supposed to be used on news. And they were like, oh, so you were the one who does that. So this changes status kidogo. So this character that we used to do on TV becomes a thing. And then now, there are captions that we used to write on the show, like titling of the stories. And then we were like, this could be borrowed for the trend, the 8 p.m. trend.
Yes.
So when they cancel this show, Larry Kwanzaa gives me a heads up. And I don't think I've thanked him enough for that. He gives me a heads up 2 months before.
That
Tells me that this show, they will cancel this show. And I think Larry operates from a point of, I don't think you can surprise him, because I don't think there's anything I've ever showed him from the internet. Have you ever seen someone like that?
Yes.
Like, even the remotest place, like alikuwa shaiona, right?
Yeah.
So I think he also shares that element with me. Like, they're gonna cancel this show 2 months before, right? So when they canceled the show, I was like, sawa, there's an option of going back to stand-up. Then Mark Masai comes, and he does a show called Press Pass, and he's like, I'd like you to do this segment on Press Pass. And when he asks me to do the segment on Press Pass, I consult, and everybody agrees that that's not a good idea. That show is too serious for me. So I duck him. I duck Mark for some time. I duck him. Then one day, he decides to just play a clip. I don't know whether he decides, or he gave me a direct assignment. Like, this thing has happened, do me a script on this, and let's see how it goes.
And sorry, so even as the show's been terminated, you're still kept on contract at Nation?
No, this is before the show has been terminated.
It's been cancelled. Okay.
Just before it's
before
terminated.
It goes over. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So when Mark requests me to do a script and I duck him for like 2 or 3 weeks, then he pins me with a direct assignment. He's like, this has happened, do me a script on this one, let's just try that. And we do it, and it works. And then he says, next week, same time, same place. Turns out, part of the reasons to keep me at Nation was that I decided to also do a gig for Mark. You understand? So it happens that they are cancelling the show, but will retain you. So Mark and Larry talked to Linus Kaikai, and they're like, he has to. So at first, I'm a free electron for some time. Like, there's no direct
assignment that you
assignment
show
that
you
you
on,
do. Yes, you can do the trend, you can do Press Pass, but we've not even agreed on how much you're getting paid, right? So this happens for 1-2 months, and then they assign me to the trend. So I do the trend for 1 year. Was it 1 year? Yes, I do the trend for 1 year. Then my contract almost ends in June. So I propose an idea. Kazungu and Obina come to me, and they tell me they've been offered a chance at K24, right? To do a show like they used to do, if I'm interested in being a writer for them. Then they ask, what can we name the show? I tell them, can you call it The Wicked Edition? They were like, no, they don't like that name. So I go register that name. Like, I'll use it somewhere. Okay? So Pole Pole, Emmanuel Juma comes. He was the first person to say, you can do your own show. I don't think I even had the confidence to present. I was so comfortable in behind the scenes writing, and for comedy performance, I was a stickler for stand-up. Like, I wasn't hearing anything else like stand-up. I didn't see myself performing on a TV show. Then Larry introduces me to different forms of comedy, like John Colbert, John Oliver, John Stewart. I'm like, I like this format, right? So Emmanuel Juma comes and says, you can have your own show, right? So we do a pilot and stuff. Larry gives us a spot on the trend. We play the show. And there's someone who doesn't get enough credit for the journey around this season of my life because we disagreed creatively. Is it creatively? Or I think our friendship ended under very funny circumstances, but he played a very big role. Kevin Getau at Nation. He was really the bulldozer who I worked with behind the scenes to get things done. Like we were good friends then, but I don't know, something happened. So he was the one who we could work together in terms of executing. Like, okay, so can this work? Will this work? No. What worked, right? Then eventually we get a conversation to have our own show. Another guardian angel pops up. Jamila Mohammed is now a citizen. And this is also another chance because the possibility of that show going on air was very slim, right? And it was, I believe, a combination of shooting in the dark, chance, and it's a combination of many things because I looked at the collaboration of the number of people this show had to go through to go on air and the compromises that had to be made financially, right? I don't see any other season that people would have tried to have that show on air. I don't see the possibility. And so now that's 2016, around 1.5 years after the show was cancelled, we go on air, immense feedback, and we start picking from there. We do the show for 7 years.
Okay. That's eventually, I guess that's how the Wicked Edition came to be.
Yes.
And so when you were a writer now for the trend, what are the different, how much are people paid as a writer at the trend? Then, I don't know what it is now.
I think for Nation as a company, I think this would expose them because Nation paid me well. They paid me well. But then again, I don't know, under the contract that I had, I would be exposing the negotiations of other people with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let me ask you this. Where do you think you've made your most money, I guess, as a comedian, in your journey that you've taken? Have you made most of your money through working with Nation? Have you made most of your money outside as a stand-up comedian?
One thing I'm forever grateful for Nation for the season that I was there, I was allowed to... Okay, remember I started by saying I used to work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But as I get better at the job, the number of days reduced. The number of time I needed to put in to execute a certain task reduced.
Yeah.
So we got to a place where the conversation was, I got the freedom. Like, as long as I made my deliverables, we were good.
Yeah.
And I made my deliverables in terms of my responsibility to our audience and my commitment to the organization.
Yeah.
So when I think Nation drivers can attest, Naftali, I think he left, Mbao. There was a time I used to sleep at a bench outside Kaikai's office because I didn't want to leave the building before I was in a safe zone. I call it a safe zone for writing. Like gathering content here and there, and then you put together something, right?
Yeah.
And then it gets to a place where my scripting, as long as I just get into a zone and planning, I can be able to write and execute. I can do certain things. So the freedom to deal on deliverables and the allowance to do my other things outside gave me like hybrid of working. So I was at Nation and I could do my things too.
Okay. So what if you had to give us ranges, since you don't want to give us specific figures, if you had to give us ranges, I guess as the comedian that you are in that position where you had your own show, where you're leading it, and you have other stuff that you're doing on the side, what would a good month look like for you financially? How much would you be making on a good month on average? And how much would you make on a bad month?
I would make enough to be angry when I see taxes being misused. Like
When you see taxes being
yes,
misused,
yes.
what does that mean?
If you earn, you know very well, Kamau andiko. If on paper you earn 500,000, you know that's 350K.
Yes.
Thereabout, right?
Yeah.
Because the rest goes to government.
Yes.
So unajua? So now, I had for the money that I made, just know that it's very painful for me to contribute to the looting in government. That's how I look at it. And I also don't look sana at the exact amount.
Yeah.
Like, yes. Hey, Kwanza, someone at CBK told me something that I really need to go check.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to be good with KRA.
Yeah.
But I really hope they check on that. Yes, I've accounted properly. But it's good money to get mad. I'll give you an example of a gig I did at Nation. Very small gig. I got paid 400K, like direct.
Yeah.
But the money that comes to me is 280.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally splitting. In fact, for the time I've worked at Nation, for 10 years, I think I was a civil servant. I think I was working for government. No, for real.
Yeah.
For real, when you think about it, and it's even worse now that they're adding percentages come as NHIF.
Yeah.
I'll just say, for what it's worth, giving an exact figure is like, for someone someone needs to understand the process for how you get from 5K to X amount of money, or let's say $1 million, Bob, so that it doesn't come across like you will be bragging, like you will be showing off. You understand?
Okay. And so maybe you can tell us then about a little bit as we wrap up about your investments. Where have you put your money? Where have you invested? Other than the cars, and I don't know whether you consider the cars an investment or just
cars are not an investment. I don't think. Cars are not an investment. Let me tell you something radical. In my time at Nation, someone teaches me something very, very interesting. The most unlikely person you can quote. We call it the lost episode. Amos Kimunya. Right? He comes on the show. The episode hangs. Something happens. We can't retrieve the footage. But I carry something he said. Like everything we do. And this is in line with my mindset in terms of investing. Let me start with a summary. I invest in people. 100%. I just invest in people. Because Amos Kimunya says something. However much you accumulate, whatever thing you do, right, it's for the people, right? You can only eat as much. You can only drive one car at a time. You can only live in one house at the same time. But in the end, at the end of your journey, everything goes back to the people. Either asset recovery, either the people ulikuwa unakataa kusaidia, they share it among themselves, or one way or another, it goes back to the people, right? I carry that with me every day. Now, when it comes to investment, my mindset is, and where I put my money. Number one, now I'm fully in production, right? Like I'm fully in production. I conform to the idea, invest in what you understand, okay? But then again, the concept of investment, we had a guest come on the show that we do now, who made a very controversial statement. It actually was a topic of discussion at some point, that in this country, the structures are that 2 million Kenya shillings
I've seen that
cannot
clip.
give you a net profit of 50,000 shillings every month consistently. Do you know, we had another guest come on the show with prepared notes to prove that it's actually possible, but it was not. As in, on practical terms, like the business environment is so hostile. So my investment mindset has been, there's two things and two ways I look at this. Investing in people is not at buying people alcohol when they need, or sijui, what do you call it? Like kutesa, that's not investing in people.
Yeah.
Investing sometimes without expectations. Primarily, to answer the question, I put my money in what I understand, production.
You don't have any land anywhere or share somewhere or things like that.
Okay, Nation Circle, 100%. Nation Circle, I have shares at Nation Circle. They have very good deals. In terms of backups, Nation Circle. Beyond that, I'm toying with Bitcoin, sana sana. I'll call myself Nation Circle. Let me give a shout out to her. There's a lady who has been there, one of the people I interacted with, naitwa Priscilla. From 2014 when I joined the circle, that's 10 years ago. She was always like, why don't you buy land? Like, she helped me, she has helped me a few times, but buy land. Then I've always been like, you buy land in Nairobi, alafu Gongwe. But then now I've discovered that unaona in 2014, the pieces of land where you could hear people would get a piece of land na 250,000. Now it's 3 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there is no offers that 250,000. We actually in partnership with a company that sells for 750K. So probably the 750K today is the 250 of 2014.
Yeah.
So I have those moments. So once in a while I take advantage of those as a flipping. That's number one. Number two, Rufas converted me to Bitcoin. But I have a beef, not beef, a bone to pick with Rufas. Rufas made a very good case for Bitcoin, and in our next conversation, Najua, I'll pick him up on this. I saw an argument that in Bitcoin first of all, was I think 60,000 in 2016.
At some point, yeah.
At some point, Kenya shillings. Now, last I checked, it was 7 point something million. One Bitcoin, right? I have a friend who sold, I think, Rufus had a friend who sold a Bitcoin for 300K. He could have this 700 million. There's projections that Bitcoin value will be around $1 million in 2030, I believe, in 12 years, okay? No investment beats that, okay? But then the information that I'm missing, and I think in our next conversation with Rufus will be, you know the Bani Madoff story?
Bani
Madoff.
No.
He ran a Ponzi scheme for 17 years.
17 This is the one on Netflix. Is it
Netflix?
Netflix?
I don't know if they have
I feel like I've seen that anyway.
It's one of the longest running finance scams of all time, right? But then again, Bani Madoff, in Bani Madoff's case, there was a suspect. In 2009, someone creates Bitcoin, okay? And he disappears in 2014, thereabout, right? So the question that I'm seeking to answer is, Rufus has demonstrated that Bitcoin is foolproof. It's the safest crypto to engage in. But there's one question I've not answered. What if Bitcoin is a Bani Madoff story, but without a suspect? You understand? Because the guy has a wallet, okay? What's to say that after some time, he'll pop up and flood the market with the coins. And I think he has like 1 million coins. Now imagine if one goes for close to 8 million now, okay? So my engagement with this, I'm fully sold on the concept as a stable form of transaction, right? So there's only that one question I need to answer, like that it's only one gap, right? Yeah. Just one gap. So if I answer that question, probably in my next conversation with Rufus, I'm fully sold on cryptocurrency, and I may look that direction. Real estate looks like the best sure bet for now. Investment, mostly in Kenya. I feel like people confuse between business and exploitation. There's a lady who's trending now because she's exposing businessmen for overpricing products, right? You remember the reaction on China Square?
Yes.
What was your interpretation of that reaction?
I mean, it was strange because it seemed like it was, a free market space. If someone is willing to sell it at a cheaper price, I
personally almost got in trouble over a tweet because of a comment on China Square. So apparently, the businessmen were mad that this guy was alikuwa anaharibu market. Does it mean that the market cannot survive without exploitation? And I think that makes me arrive at the conclusion that in Kenya, people don't focus on business in terms of problem solving. People focus on business in terms of exploitation. We've been told time and again that the business is in the not knowing of the other person.
Yeah.
If I'm selling you something, I'm selling it to you because you don't know how much it is. And therein lies exploitation, right? So I'm also very careful about what I invest in. I'm a believer on there is good money and there is bad money. There's people who believe you can take all the money that comes your way. There are people who believe on principle. There are people who, and this world also has I'm also very careful because this country punishes people who stand on principle.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a politician who's gone broke, alafu people say, wewe ulikuwa na nafasi ya kuiba, why didn't you steal? You understand? So the business environment in Kenya, in short, lacks ethics. So as at now, I'm investing in what I know.
Okay.
Production and people.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you so much for coming on Financially Incorrect. Thank you for sharing your story, giving us a little bit about your financial journey and a bit of your insight and wisdom in how you're spending your money. Hopefully, if you've listened, you've gotten a lesson or two inadvertently or directly. And we will see you guys on the next episode of Financially Incorrect next Friday.